You are watching 17th channel. My name is Жанна Васильцев. Today, we will show you how the intelligence works. Not so long ago, 17th channel was wrongly judged. We were accused of being funded by the offshore zone, that the investigators purportedly cannot see the faces of those who bankroll the pacifist channel. Why do investigators keep silent about those who, unlike us, do not bring the money into the country, but take it out via offshoring? We decided to lend a helping hand to the Ukrainian law enforcement and demonstrate who actually robbed the country, earning on the most disadvantaged, victims of the war in the East. So the 17th channel's intelligence reports about literally infernal tax evasion schemes. Among the names that surfaced around these schemes are Kiev Patriarch Filaret and guarantor of the Constitution Poroshenko. Watch further and do not say you did not see it. This is the life of 3 million people who have fallen prey to the hybrid war. Television feeds them with the news that peace is impossible. Terrorists are shelling Donetsk again, punitive operations in Donbass. Those who have survived firings are offered food by volunteers and the international community. This is how we exist. We are dependent on their food rations. What else can we do? During the war in the East, international organizations donated over $500 million. The official authorities give a full account. The money goes to provide help for asylum seekers, wounded fighters, and those who are unable to leave the conflict zone. The Church contributes as well to the good cause. Yet, the statistics on collecting humanitarian aid immediately acquires a sinful slant. In March, in this unassuming district court of Kiev, there was made a scandalous decision. The judge arrested nearly 120 tons of humanitarian aid. The investigators found out that the supplied fabrics and footwear were supposed to be dispatched to the marketplaces of Odessa and Kharkiv instead of the ATO zone. What surprises most of all, the goods were delivered to Ukraine under the auspices of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Kiev Patriarchate. The available intelligence information is related to actual unloading of vehicles, which arrive at the address of the religious organization Patriarchal Charity Mission of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Kiev Patriarchate. It was established that the cargo-loaded transportation vehicles, which are destined for particular parishes in Lugansk and Dnipropetrovsk, after going through customs clearance, make for Odessa city. In the Kiev Patriarchate's diocese, they repudiate any connection with the corruption scandal. The Church publishes its position at the official site. The Christ followers have been publicly crucified by commercial swindlers. Some persons came to the Patriarch of Kiev and all Rus Ukraine Filaret with an offer to step up humanitarian activity of the Kiev Patriarchate by means of collecting overseas humanitarian aid and forwarding it to those in need, particularly in the east of Ukraine. To that end, they requested to found a Patriarch's Charity Mission and receive the Patriarch's consent. The plans, voiced by the solicitors, sounded realistic and appeared convincing. What is an actual appearance of the realistic plans is shown by the chief investigator on the photo, featuring examination of the notorious cargo. I can show what humanitarian aid was intended for the aid of veterans. You can see here crystal-encrusted caps, shoes. On the next photo are second-hand clothes, prints with naked women, which are hardly suitable for wear by the aid of veterans, each item wearing a tag. Instead of old wear for refugees, fabrics and fashionable articles for Odessa market. We found out who were the drivers of such transportation vehicles. Having been interrogated, they confirmed the cargo had never been delivered to any missions, but directly to Odessa marketplace. According to conservative estimates of the investigation, the goods from the seized patch are evaluated at nearly 10 million hryvnias. They can be sold in several times more expensively in the Ukrainian markets. We managed to find out there is a number of enterprises that, under the guise of charity organizations, imported humanitarian aid into the territory of Ukraine. It's common knowledge the humanitarian aid at the Ukrainian customs is not subject to taxation. The consignment documents indicate an end recipient of the goods. Humanitarian aid for the war victims is to be transported for its further distribution to Lugansk and Dnipropetrovsk dioceses of the Kiev Patriarchate. Our staff members personally visited Lugansk, Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions, established feedback with the branches. However, the branches were totally unaware of the aid concerned. The fiscal service easily calculated that within several months, the Patriarchal Charity Mission had imported to Ukraine, without having to pay taxes, 260 tons of goods, the state suffering losses of tens of millions hryvnias. Thus, three questions consistently arise from troubled corruption waters. First, why did the scam artist used to live like in the land of cocaine? Second, who, among law enforcement officials, agreed to a conscious wrongdoing, turning a blind eye to the fact the country was being robbed via looting the aid donated for the war victims? And third, who, in the Kiev Patriarchate, loved his neighbor as himself so much that he failed to expose his vicious thinking? Who, among the clergymen, lobbied the decision to issue a permit for the company of swindlers? It seems to be a mystery not to be revealed in public. In the state register, we find a detail that sheds the light of the truth on the matter. The Ukrainian Church of the Kiev Patriarchate appears as a founder itself of the Patriarchal Charity Mission. Now, we've arrived at 4B Trехsvetительskaya Street. According to the state register, the Patriarchal Charity Mission, which was engaged in transporting humanitarian aid to Ukraine, is registered namely at this address. Now we'll check what is located there. In the very center of Kiev, there is a 5-storied house with the sign of the Notary and Financial Audit Department at the entrance door. However, the entrance door is closed here, and the journalist is told to go across the territory of St. Michael Cathedral to get to another entrance. So, we are going round the building across the yard of St. Michael Cathedral. Having crossed ourselves 3 times, we are entering the back areas of the once blessed canonic organization. The door is closed. The light is off in the corridor. The KP diocese specifically emphasizes they responded firmly to the corruption scandal. Though the investigation is pending, the revealed facts prove unequivocally that the Patriarchal Charity Mission chief staff intentionally misled the Patriarch and the Church, abused the charity organization's name and confidence in order to gain commercial benefit. In view of the fact, the above mission ceases immediately its activity as a religious organization and has to be subject to liquidation in a manner prescribed by the law. We went to the Ministry of Social Policy of Ukraine to seek clarification. Namely, this agency, alongside with the law enforcement, are responsible for monitoring the humanitarian industry. How did scribes and Pharisees manage to outwit the whole army of faithful security forces? 250 tons of goods. It is definitely not a needle in the haystack. The cargoes were identified, and the goods, fabrics, clothes, footwear, were strictly distributed under the plan. The mission submitted all the relevant documents that specified, for instance, making clothes from the fabrics for the needy in the ATO zone in Lugansk and Donetsk regions. He makes sure, together with security forces, that the humanitarian aid reaches its final recipient. Although this aid is plentiful, and despite the fact there are a lot of citizens in the east of the country who suffer from hunger, the Special Commission has to consider weekly over 50 applications. In our working group of the Ministry of Social Policy of Ukraine, there participate 7 ministries and the National Bank. There are representatives of Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Financial Affairs, Ministry of Healthcare. It's quite a wide circle of authorized persons. One can hardly wish to take somebody else's sin. No sooner had we sent inquiries to the state structures than we got in touch also with those who wanted to share some official information with us unofficially. We bring to your attention a document on the letterhead of the Kiev Patriarchate. Isn't it a letter of the Patriarch of Kiev and all Rus Ukraine addressed to Minister of Social Policy Pavel Rosenko? In this letter, Filaret personally gives his blessing to provide support for the Patriarch's Charity Mission. A particular emphasis is laid on the request to handle cargo without any delays. I express my request for you to recognize the cargoes consigned to the Patriarch's Charity Mission Church Foundation as charity aid and facilitate, to its best advantage, formalities related to documents preparation. Sincerely yours, Patriarch of Kiev and all Rus Ukraine Filaret. Here is a letter signed by the Deputy Minister, Chief of Staff Mr. Ivankevich. The Ministry of Social Policy dispatches the good news from Filaret to the state structures. The Ministry of Internal Affairs, SBU, State Fiscal Service are requested to recognize as a humanitarian aid motor vehicle parts weighing 110,000 kilos, new clothes weighing 110,000 kilos, and artificial grass. 110 tons of motor vehicle parts would be sufficient to assemble around 100 cars. 110 tons of new clothes would cover the needs of entire cities full of refugees. And of course, 5.5 thousand square meters of artificial grass would prove handy to cover the burnt-out battlefields of Donbass, to make them eye-catching for local believers. Members of the working group gave their remarks, namely ungrounded compliance with Article 1 of the Law of Artificial Grass, supplying IDPs with motor vehicle parts deemed as a humanitarian aid. The letters of the recipients enclosed to the package of documents say nothing about the need in the above-cited stuff. 2 weeks later, the Patriarch's Charity Mission informed they had taken into account considerations of the working group, changed the situation for the better, and forwarded 3 documentation packages, under which the humanitarian aid had multiplied 4 times. Thanks to God, the mission intends to deliver as much as 396,000 kilos of motor vehicle parts, 484,000 kilos of new clothes, as well as second-hand clothes, linen and shoes, totaling to 480,000 kilos. As for the artificial grass, this time it is missing in the humanitarian list. It aroused suspicion at once, and the working group wanted the mission to specify what they are and what they are necessary for. The explanation did not follow, therefore we did not accept the cargo. On the official site of the Ministry of Social Policy, we could find a full cargo list, the precise scope of aid for the ATO zone. Apparently, Filaret's letter to the Minister of Social Policy, the informer told us about, is real. One proof is that the declared list of items in this letter coincides with the subsequent list on the Ministry's official site. The amount of goods free from customs clearance, motor vehicle parts, new and second-hand clothes, linen, shoes coincides too. Who assists the Kiev Patriarchate in this pious deed? Solo Communication LP Company appears as a humanitarian donor. At first sight, one could think patrons of the disadvantaged in the ATO zone come from Scotland. Let's scrutinize registration details. 2 offshore companies appeared as founders of Solo Communication, Poramto Group Incorporated and Admiral Group Corporation, which are both registered in a small Belize city located next to Honduras. Those who want to hide their money find this city to be a safe financial harbor. The laws of Belize keep secrets of any depositors. Yet, even the South American offshores aren't immune from information leakage. The companies which set up humanitarian collection firms are the same, Poramto Group and Admiral Group Corporation, that have already been spotted in the Ukrainian media space. Andrei Portnov used to tell on his page about those who hide their money in these offshore companies. The former close associate of Yanukovych published excerpts of the Ukrainian customs database. Having studied this base, one can come to the conclusion that the 2 above-mentioned offshores founded another tax-free company, Kiev Trading LLP, having been involved in the humanitarian con game. The difference between this company and the other 2 is that Kiev Trading did not import but export the goods of Vinnytsia Bakery Products Factory, owned by President Poroshenko. It appears the president's enterprise and the church swindlers use the services of one and the same offshore companies. How can one understand the request letter signed by Filaret and the official position of the church? It's solely subcontractors who were misled by the devil. Now we are looking at the Ukrainian Customs Export Operations database. Here we can see Vinnytsia Bakery Products Factory and the beneficiary company Culbert Trading, LLP. This is exactly the company Andrei Portnov wrote about, that it was founded by the two offshore companies, Poramto Group Incorporated and Admiral Group Corporation. Bingo!
Две офшорных компании Admiral Group и Poramto Group.
During the week, we paid a daily visit to the office of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Kiev Patriarchate, but the names of actual organizers are kept in secret there. Neither Filaret nor his assistants found any slot to meet with journalists. We'll schedule an interview for a particular day, but could you please tell us about the questions you want to ask? Does the Patriarchal Charity Mission have anything to do with your church? Anyway, the last tranche of pseudo-humanitarian aid was seized right at the customs warehouses. The investigation is still pending and will wait for further results. Is it America that no longer wants to support the new government, or the Russian FSB guys who carried out a brilliant special operation? Since there is enough physical evidence to establish truth, it may be predicted the church humanitarian aid battle is still ahead. Undoubtedly, the people affected by the war in the East will be fed up with sophisticated scandals in the national television broadcasting and tasty promises served by politicians. We appeal to the SBU and the Prosecutor General's office to confirm or repudiate the information obtained by the journalists. Namely, is it really so that the primate of the Kiev Patriarchate personally asked to turn a blind eye to vicious deliveries of the humanitarian aid?